My name is Clara Bedwell. I'm 31 years old, and tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. At least that's what I kept telling myself as I stood under the soft gold lights of the country club, pretending not to notice how my hands trembled against my champagne glass. Everything was perfect, or so it looked. The flowers, the music, the laughter. My mother kept tearing up every time someone mentioned the wedding. My father was proudly showing off the rehearsal dinner menu like he had planned it himself. Michael, my fiancé, looked impossibly calm in his charcoal suit, smiling at me with that gentle warmth I fell in love with 4 years ago. And my younger sister, Julia, well, Julia was being Julia, charming everyone, laughing a little too loudly, flirting with the groomsmen, the golden child of the family, effortlessly beautiful, the kind of woman who made people feel like the world revolved around her. For a while, I let myself believe everything was exactly as it should be. I even caught myself daydreaming about walking down the aisle tomorrow about the way Michael would look at me when he saw me in my gown. I thought, this is it. The end of heartbreak, the beginning of forever. But forever lasted exactly 6 minutes longer. I was talking to one of Michael's uncles when I felt someone brush against my shoulder. Julia. Her perfume was sweet and dizzying, and the smile on her face didn't match the panic flickering in her eyes. "Can we talk?" she whispered. I nodded, thinking maybe she wanted to apologize for drinking too much. We stepped outside onto the terrace. The night air was cool, scented with roses from the gardens below. She leaned in close, so close I could feel her breath against my ear. "I slept with Michael," she said quietly. "Last month. When you went to Denver. You deserve to know." At first I thought she was joking. Julia had always had a cruel sense of humor, but then she kept talking fast, nervous eyes darting everywhere but mine. "It was stupid. We were drunk. It didn't mean anything." I couldn't speak. The music inside muffled the pounding in my chest. For a second, everything blurred the glow of the lights, the hum of laughter, the faint echo of clinking glasses. Then she said something that snapped everything into brutal focus. "He has that little scar on his shoulder," she muttered. "The one that looks like a crescent moon. You know what I mean." I did. I knew it too well. The world tilted. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, steady and monstrous. I didn't remember walking back inside, but suddenly I was standing by the DJ's booth. The wedding coordinator was giving a speech about love being patient and kind. My hand reached for the microphone before I even realized what I was doing. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, voice steady but strange. "Can I get everyone's attention for a moment?" The room fell silent. 80 faces turned toward me. Michael smiled confused, maybe thinking I was about to make some sweet little toast. "Julia," I said softly, "come up here." Her eyes went wide. "Clara, don't—" "No, please. You said you wanted me to know something. I think everyone deserves to hear it." My father stood up halfway, frowning. "Clara, what's going on?" I looked at Julia, my sister, my betrayer. "Julia, I said you were saying something about you and my fiancé." Gasps rippled through the room like a wave. Julia froze. Michael's face drained of color. "Clara, stop," he whispered. I turned to him. "You want to tell them, or should she?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Julia covered her face, sobbing now. It was a mistake. We were drunk. It just happened. The silence that followed was the kind that eats sound-heavy, suffocating. Then my mother screamed a sharp, broken sound that cut through everything. My father's voice shook with fury. "Get out of here, Julia. Right now." People were whispering, staring. Michael tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me." His mother started crying. Someone knocked over a glass. The whole night disintegrated into chaos. An hour later, I was in a hotel room that smelled like stale coffee and wilted flowers. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating calls from everyone, my mother, Michael, even Julia. I turned it face down. I sat there staring at the ring still on my finger, the same one he'd slipped on my hand on a beach in Mexico, the same one Julia must have noticed when she touched him. Everyone keeps asking why I did it publicly. No one asks what it feels like to be betrayed in private. I lay down on the bed, still in my rehearsal dress, mascara dried to salt on my cheeks. And for the first time since it all started, I didn't cry. Because I wasn't broken. Not yet. But tomorrow, when the sun rises on the day I was supposed to get married, that's when the real breaking will begin. The morning after the rehearsal, I woke up to sunlight spilling through the hotel curtains. Too bright, too clean, too mocking. It was supposed to be my wedding day. The white dress was still hanging in the closet untouched. My phone was a battlefield of missed calls, unread messages, and desperate voicemails. From Mom, "Clara, please pick up. We just need to talk." From Dad, "I'm proud of you, but come home." From Michael, 26 messages, and from Julia, just one. You ruined my life. I sat there staring at those words until the screen dimmed, then dropped the phone into the nightstand drawer. The news spread faster than wildfire. By noon, people who weren't even at the rehearsal were posting vague quotes about privacy and maturity online, the passive-aggressive poetry of modern gossip. Some sided with me. Most didn't. Real women handle pain in silence, one comment said. Another read, she humiliated her own sister and fiancé just for attention. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The truth didn't need defending. It just needed time to sting. That evening, my father came to the hotel. He looked 10 years older than he had yesterday. He didn't say anything at first, just sat across from me, eyes red, holding a paper cup of coffee. Finally, he said, "You did what I wish I'd had the courage to do once." I looked up. "What do you mean?" He hesitated. "When your mother found out years ago that I'd been flirting with someone at work, she didn't tell anyone. She buried it, pretended it never happened. It ate her alive. What you did, you tore the infection out before it could rot your life. I just want you to know I understand." His voice cracked on the last word. It was the first time I'd seen my father cry. When he left, I stood by the window for a long time, watching people below, laughing, carrying flowers, living normal lives. I wondered what they'd think if they knew that just one floor above them, a woman had just buried her wedding day like a corpse. That night, the hotel manager slipped an envelope under my door, a letter from Michael. The handwriting was hurried, desperate. "Clara, please. We need to talk." I don't know what came over me. Julia. She started it. It was one time a stupid mistake. Please don't throw away what we have. I love you. Love. The word used to make my chest ache in the best way. Now it just made me tired. I folded the letter back into the envelope and set it beside the untouched wedding dress. The two looked almost poetic together, a love that once fit perfectly and now suffocated me. The next day my mother showed up. Her eyes were swollen, her lipstick smeared from crying. "Clara," she whispered, "do you have any idea what you've done?" I said nothing. "You humiliated your sister. You humiliated us." I turned toward her. She slept with my fiancé mom. "I know," she said, voice breaking, "but you didn't have to destroy her. You could have handled it quietly. Family matters should stay within the family." I laughed, not bitterly, just hollow. "Secrets are what destroy families, Mom, not the truth." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "You sound just like your father," she whispered before leaving. When the door closed, I realized something. She wasn't angry because of what I'd done. She was angry because I broke the family's favorite illusion that we were perfect. That night, I took the ring off. It left a faint, pale circle on my finger, a ghost of the future I'd been promised. I placed it on the desk beside the burnt-out lamp and thought about Julia's last message. "You ruined my life." Maybe I had, but she ruined something much bigger. And as I lay in bed, listening to the hum of the city outside, I felt the strangest thing. Not grief, not anger, relief. Because for the first time in years, I didn't owe anyone silence. 3 days after the canceled wedding, a soft knock echoed through my hotel door. When I opened it, my cousin Rachel was standing there, eyes swollen from crying, holding a pale envelope with my name written in Julia's looping, perfect handwriting. "She asked me to bring it," Rachel said quietly. "Said she didn't have the courage to face you." I didn't invite her in. I just nodded and took the letter. When she left, I stood staring at it for a long time, my thumb tracing the familiar cursive Clara, like it was a word I didn't recognize anymore. The letter was 6 pages long. It started with, "I'm sorry," written 3 times. Then it became something else entirely. "I know I betrayed you in the worst way. I was lonely. You were always so focused on work, on planning everything. You had him all the time. I only had moments. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just felt invisible. Please, Clara, tell people it was mutual, that we both realized we weren't compatible. You have the power to fix this." My chest tightened as I read the words, "the power to fix this," as if I broke it, as if my silence could glue together the shards of what she'd smashed. By the second page, her tone shifted apologetic to defensive, like a hinge creaking under weight. "You've destroyed my life. I can't get a job. Everyone looks at me like I'm poison. I've been to therapy. I can't sleep. I can barely eat. Please, just make it stop." It wasn't remorse. It was desperation to rewrite the story, to make herself the victim again. I folded the pages neatly, placed them in the hotel trash bin, and set them on fire with a match from the minibar. The flames curled the edges, turning her apologies into smoke. I watched them rise toward the ceiling vent until the paper disintegrated completely. She wanted forgiveness to save her image, but forgiveness isn't a press release. Later that night, my phone rang. Mom again. When I picked up, her voice was tired, trembling. Clara, honey, maybe it's time to let this go. Let what go? All this anger, Julia's suffering. You've made your point. I made the truth known. That's all. She hesitated. Your sister's not eating. She's having panic attacks. You don't want that on your conscience. My laugh came out sharp. My conscience is clear. She should try having one. Clara. No, Mom. You don't get to cry for her when she never cried for me. There was silence, then a whisper. You used to be so kind. I still am, I said. Just not to people who treat kindness like weakness. She hung up. That same night, Michael's name appeared on my screen again. This time a text instead of a call. You're really going to keep punishing me like this? I didn't reply. Then another. You've destroyed 2 families. Over a mistake. Congratulations. For a brief second, I imagined standing in front of him again, his gray suit, the wine glass in his hand, the smug confidence that always masked cowardice. And I realized something that chilled me. Neither of them regretted the act. They only regretted being caught. A week later, I saw the fallout online. Julia's friends posting cryptic messages about grace and forgiveness. One even wrote, "Some things should stay private. Real strength is in silence." That one almost made me laugh. Silence is what allowed Julia to take from me in the first place. Silence would have let them walk down that aisle like nothing happened. But not everyone was against me. Rachel, the same cousin who brought me the letter, posted a single sentence under one of those pity posts. Maybe don't sleep with your sister's fiancé if you want people to stay silent. The comments erupted. Half defended Julia, half defended me. For once, I didn't feel the need to defend myself at all. That night, I took a long shower, the kind where the water is too hot and too long. When I stepped out, I looked at my reflection. My eyes were swollen, my lips pale, but my shoulders steady. I whispered, "You're still here," and it was true. They had taken love, trust, and family, but not me. I packed my things the next morning, checked out of the hotel, and went back to the apartment that used to be ours. The one filled with furniture we chose together, colors we agreed on, dreams we'd spoken into existence. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw was the gray comforter on our bed, the one Julia had mentioned, the one that proved everything. I tore it off, stuffed it into a trash bag, and threw it out. Then I changed the sheets. Fresh linen, clean slate. That night, the apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and my heartbeat. It didn't feel like home yet, but for the first time, it didn't feel haunted either. It had been almost 2 weeks since the wedding that never was. Long enough for the whispers to turn into rumors, and for the rumors to become stories told by people who were never even there. By then, I'd returned to work, moved through each day like a ghost pretending to be alive. I spoke to my coworkers, smiled when needed answered emails. But every time someone said, "How are you doing?" I could tell they already knew. One afternoon, as I left the office, a familiar voice stopped me cold. Clara. Julia. She stood by the parking lot, hair disheveled, eyes rimmed with red. She looked smaller than I remembered, not physically, but in presence. Like the person who used to command every room had finally realized no one was listening anymore. I froze. "What are you doing here?" "Please," she said, taking a step closer. "I just need to talk." "About what you've said enough." Her lips trembled. "I lost my job. Mom and Dad won't let me come home. Everyone hates me. I don't have anywhere to go." I wanted to say I didn't care, but the truth is I felt something worse than anger. Pity, the kind of pity that tastes like metal. "Julia," I said quietly, "you made choices. You don't get to show up and turn them into tragedies now." Tears welled in her eyes. "We're sisters. That has to mean something." "It did," I said, "until you taught me it doesn't." She followed me to my car, her voice cracking. "I'm trying to make things right." "Make them right how you can't unsleep with him, Julia. You can't unruin it." I wasn't thinking. "You were always the perfect one, the one everyone loved." There it is. I cut her off. That's what this was about. Not love, competition. You wanted to win. Congratulations, you did. Her tears stopped. For a second, I saw the old Julia, the one who used to get what she wanted, by twisting guilt into a weapon. "You think this makes you stronger?" she spat. "Telling the world they're laughing at you, Clara. Everyone thinks you're cold." I smiled faintly. "Good. Maybe now they'll stop underestimating me." She flinched, then whispered, "I just wanted to feel loved." I unlocked my car door, then stopped confusing love with taking what isn't yours. When I drove away, she was still standing there, small and shaking in the parking lot. That night, the phone rang again. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail came through seconds later. "Michael. Clara, please, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. You owe me that." Owe him. The word made my stomach turn. He called again. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "You have 30 seconds, I said. Clara, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary, Michael. You made a decision. He sighed. You were always working, always busy. I felt lonely, I cut in. You had my sister. He went quiet. You destroyed everything, he said finally. We could have moved on. No one had to know. I laughed, soft and cruel. You think I did this to destroy you, no, Michael. I did it to save myself. You've turned everyone against me. No, I said. You did that the moment you chose her. He said my name once more as if saying it could rewind time. Then I hung up, blocked the number. After that call, I sat in silence for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from release. It hit me then. They both thought the problem was the public humiliation. They never realized that what killed everything wasn't exposure, it was betrayal. They were angry I told the truth out loud, because they wanted to keep living their lie. A week later, Julia showed up again. This time she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood at my door, holding an envelope. My therapist said I should write this, she said flatly. To take accountability. I didn't take it. You can keep your therapy homework. She placed it on the doormat. It's not excuses, just an explanation. I didn't reply. She turned and walked away. I waited until she disappeared down the hall before picking up the envelope. Inside were 2 pages neatly written. I know I can't undo it, but I'm asking for a chance to rebuild. We're sisters. That has to mean something. Same words, different day. I folded the pages and dropped them in the trash without reading the rest. That night, I finally slept, not deeply, but peacefully enough. In my dreams, I saw myself walking through a house on fire, calm, untouched, while everything that used to trap me burned behind me. When I woke, the air smelled faintly of smoke from the candle I'd left burning too long. It made me smile. Sometimes to rebuild, you really do have to burn everything first. By the time the 3rd week rolled around, the silence had become its own kind of noise. No more voicemails, no more apology letters, just the low hum of everyday life returning until it didn't. One Sunday morning, I was at my parents' house. I hadn't planned to visit, but Dad had insisted. Your mother made brunch, he said over the phone. We'll keep it simple, just family. That last part should have been the warning. When I walked into the dining room, I saw them, Julia and Mom, sitting side by side at the table, like nothing had happened. Julia's hair was tied back, her makeup light, her expression subdued the picture of remorse. Clara, Mom said too brightly, We thought it would be good for everyone to talk. I froze at the doorway. Everyone. Please, Dad said quietly, just sit. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to leave, but something about Dad's eyes made me stay. I sat down, arms folded, waiting. Julia didn't look at me right away. She stirred her tea, then finally whispered, I know you hate me. That's not true, I said. Hate would mean I still care. She winced, but pressed on. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm trying to change. I just want us to move past this. Past what exactly? Her eyes flicked up defensive. You think I haven't paid enough. I lost my job, my apartment, my friends. You lost those things because you earned them, I cut in. Not because of me. Mom reached across the table. Clara, please. She's your sister. I turned to her. And you're my mother. You should understand what betrayal feels like. Her face hardened. I understand that forgiveness is the only way forward. Dad's voice broke the tension firm and low. Enough. Clara's not obligated to forgive anything. Julia's eyes filled with tears again. Dad, he pointed a finger. You need to listen to yourself for once. You hurt your sister, and instead of owning it, you've been trying to make her feel guilty for telling the truth. For a second, I saw my sister's facade crack. The fake composure slipped, and underneath was the same manipulative child who used to cry whenever she was caught because tears were easier than accountability. She stood suddenly, voice shaking. You all think I'm the villain, but you don't know what it's like being compared to her my whole life. Perfect Clara, the one who got everything right. The words sliced through the air like broken glass. Dad slammed his hand on the table. This isn't about competition, Julia. You didn't steal her grades or her job. You stole her future husband. Julia's lips trembled, but there was no defense left. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Mom buried her face in her hands. Dad just sighed, staring at the doorway. She'll twist it again, he said quietly. She always does. I nodded numb. Let her. I'm done defending myself to people who want to believe lies. That night I got an email from Julia. No greeting, no subject. Just, I know I can't fix us, but one day you'll regret shutting me out. Family is supposed to forgive. I didn't respond, but I couldn't sleep either. The words clawed at me, not because I agreed, but because they reminded me how different we were. To Julia, forgiveness meant resetting the board so she could play again. To me, forgiveness meant walking away from the game entirely. 2 days later, Mom called. Her voice was quieter now, smaller somehow. "She's gone," she said. I froze. "What?" She packed her things, said she needed a fresh start. Didn't say where she's going. I didn't know what to feel, relief, sadness, exhaustion. Probably all of them at once. "She'll be fine," I said eventually. "People like Julia always land on their feet." There was a long silence. Then Mom whispered, "You don't have to be so cold." I swallowed. "I'm not cold. I'm done burning." A few days later, Dad came by my apartment. He stood in the doorway holding a small paper bag. "I thought you could use this," he said. Inside was a new set of bed sheets, soft ivory linen. "Fresh start," he said. He didn't mention Julia. Neither did I. As he left, he paused by the door. "You know, when I was your age, I thought strength meant holding things together. Turns out sometimes it means knowing when to let them fall apart." I smiled faintly. "Guess we're both learning." He nodded, eyes warm but tired. "She'll try to come back one day. Don't let her rewrite what happened." "I won't." That night I lay on the new sheets, staring at the ceiling. The air was cool. The world outside was quiet. For the first time I realized something important. Julia and Michael had taken my wedding, my plans, my illusion of family. But what they couldn't take was my peace. And that after everything was the only thing worth keeping. 6 months later, the city finally felt quiet again. The scandal had faded into rumor and rumor into silence. People had found new stories to gossip about, new names to whisper, and mine was no longer one of them. My apartment no longer smelled like heartbreak. It smelled like coffee, lavender candles, and clean linen. I'd painted the walls a soft shade of cream, replaced the gray comforter with a pale blue one, and bought a second-hand guitar that leaned against the wall beside the window, a promise to myself that I would fill the silence with something new. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe without it hurting. I went back to the beach one weekend, the same one where Michael had proposed. The tide was low, the horizon wide, and the air was heavy with salt and memory. I stood there for a while, letting the wind tangle my hair, watching waves erase footprints faster than they were made. It struck me this was what healing looked like. Not forgetting, not forgiving, but simply no longer flinching when I remembered. There was no ring on my finger now, no white dress waiting in a closet somewhere, but there was peace, and peace, I'd learned, was harder to earn than love. Julia never came back home. She sent postcards sometimes, new job, new city, trying therapy again. The handwriting was the same, but the words didn't sting anymore. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because silence had finally become my closure. Mom eventually stopped mentioning her. Dad and I grew closer lunches every few weeks, quiet talks over tea. He never pushed reconciliation, never asked me to forgive. He just listened. Sometimes that was all I needed. I'd started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. Coffee dates that ended with friendly goodbyes, movie nights that didn't lead anywhere. For the first time, I wasn't looking for forever. I was just learning to exist without fear. One evening over dinner, a man I'd gone out with a few times asked, "So, what happened with your last relationship?" I told him the truth. Not the tabloid version, not the filtered one, just the plain, unpolished truth. He listened quietly, then said, "You handled that better than most people would." I smiled. That's because I didn't handle it for them. I handled it for me. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. The city was still half asleep, painted in gold and gray. I brewed coffee and stood by the window as the first light touched the skyline. And in that soft silence, I thought about everything that had happened, the chaos, the shame, the noise. Everyone had told me I was cruel, that I'd humiliated my family, that I'd gone too far. But the truth, they were never angry about what I did. They were angry that I refused to stay quiet about what was done to me. Julia and Michael had mistaken silence for grace, but silence only protects the wrong people. I wrote something down in my journal that morning. It wasn't for anyone else, just for me. You don't owe silence to liars. You don't owe kindness to betrayal. You don't owe forgiveness to people who are only sorry they got caught. The truth doesn't destroy, family secrets do. I closed the notebook, took a deep breath, and for the first time felt free. That afternoon, I took the guitar from the corner of the room and strummed a few shaky chords. My fingers hurt, but it was the good kind of pain, the kind that meant something was rebuilding. The last rays of sunlight spilled across the floor, warm and unfiltered. I looked around my little apartment, this quiet space that once held so much sorrow, and smiled. Julia had moved on. Michael had disappeared from everyone's lives. My parents had survived the storm. And me, I'd stopped surviving. I was living. People often say revenge is poison. They're wrong. The best revenge isn't bitterness. It's peace. It's walking away from the fire and realizing you no longer smell like smoke. As the light faded, I whispered the words that had been waiting on my tongue since that night at the rehearsal.